The Memphis Grizzlies have gone out and made one of the most bizarre decisions the NBA has ever seen. With only a few weeks remaining in the regular season, the Grizzlies have decided to fire their longtime head coach, Taylor Jenkins, who is undoubtedly leaving the franchise in a better place than when he found it. Now, the Grizzlies currently sit well above 500 and have a strong hold on the 5th seed in the Western Conference, with less than 10 games before the playoffs come around. So you can see why the decision to fire your head coach, who's brought you nothing but more success than what was previously imaginable, has come as a bit of a shocker to the rest of the league. However, Grizzlies GM Zach Kleiman has come out and taken full responsibility for the decision and made it well known that none of the players were involved in Taylor Jenkins' firing. Now, in the days following the controversial decision to fire Taylor Jenkins, there has still not been given a direct reason as to why the Grizzlies GM chose to fire Jenkins and chose to do it now. The best response he's given the media is that he's come out and said, "I came to the conclusion that this is in the best interest of the team and urgency is a core principle of ours, so I've decided to go on with this move." Now, what that sounds like is he's dancing around the topic pretty well, and we probably won't get the real reason as to why Jenkins has been fired until the offseason or until a little after the postseason. And that isn't going to last very long for a Memphis Grizzlies team who's going into postseason play without a head coach. Of course, they've got a solid rotation of players. They've got a superstar in Ja Morant, but that can only take you so far. Whether you like it or not, coaching is a fundamental part of the game of basketball. Hell, LeBron James, the GOAT himself, has thrived when he's got a great head coach alongside him. I mean, this year, JJ Redick has been a massive upgrade compared to the likes of a Darvin Ham. Even before the Luka Doncic trade, JJ Redick was essentially working with the same roster as Darvin Ham, and everybody is outperforming what they had accomplished a year ago. So for the Grizzlies to believe that they even have a chance in the playoffs without a head coach is ridiculous. I think this is a sign that the Grizzlies GM is throwing in the towel for the season. He doesn't believe that with the roster they have currently, they can win a championship, even though I'm sure Taylor Jenkins and everybody on the Grizzlies roster would tell you otherwise. The Memphis Grizzlies came into this season on fire. Heading into the All-Star break, this team was nearly 20 games over 500 and was at the top of the Western Conference for a majority of it, alongside the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Houston Rockets. But after the All-Star break, things began to slow down, and before Taylor Jenkins was fired, they had lost 5 out of their last 7 games. But even then, I don't think that it is a big enough skid to just go ahead and fire him mid-season, hell, late into the season. And look, as someone who's watched his fair share of Grizzlies games this season, I get that sometimes the offense can look incohesive and that they're running this 5-out offense that does a very good job at maximizing their bench players. However, it's held them back from truly having an identity on the offensive end, because it isn't a system in which Ja Morant can truly thrive in. Taylor Jenkins doesn't know what to do with all of the talent on this team, and it does have one hell of a lot of talent, because the only reason that they are so high in the standings right now is because the talent has been carrying the team, not the coaching. But you're not going to find anyone better, especially just a handful of days before the playoffs begin. I don't care if Taylor Jenkins is sleeping with someone's wife within the organization, you hold onto a guy like that. I think the most important thing to come out of this is how Ja Morant chooses to react to all of it. Because maybe Ja Morant wanted Taylor Jenkins gone, but if he didn't and the team underperforms in the playoffs, you could see a superstar like him asking out, no longer wanting to be there. And then if that happens, the Grizzlies are forced into a rebuild, one that they may not climb out of for the next decade. So whatever the Grizzlies GM is planning has to work out, or else he is losing his job before the beginning of next season. And we'll talk more about the Memphis Grizzlies and what their uncertain future looks like in a second. But for right now, I wanted to remind you guys to slow down, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 10,000. Every subscription is greatly appreciated. It goes a long way, so please subscribe. Alright, now let's get back to talking about this Grizzlies team. Now, their superstar, of course, is Ja Morant, who's been battling injuries all year long. And the last few years of Ja Morant's career haven't been the kindest, because whether it's off-the-court issues or on-the-court injuries, it's been non-stop for a Grizzlies team who's been trying to get over the hump that they've met in the playoffs time and time again. One of Taylor Jenkins' biggest struggles was maintaining a healthy roster, especially the core group of guys. Take a look at a guy like Ja Morant. Now, the minimum threshold in the NBA to be eligible for awards at the end of the season is 65 games. How many out of Ja Morant's 6 years in the NBA has he done something like that? Only one, and that was his rookie season where he played 67 games. Since then, it's all been under 65 games, and had that rule been in place since the beginning of his career, well, he wouldn't have won Most Improved in 2022, I'll tell you that much. He's never had a season where he's played in more than 70 games. Now, this isn't a Ja Morant exclusive problem. This is true for a majority of the guys that matter most to the Memphis Grizzlies. Take a guy like Desmond Bane. In his 5 years in the NBA, he's only had one season where he's played over 70 games, and that was back in 2022. If you're starting to see a pattern, it's that one of the best seasons that the Grizzlies had as a team was when a majority of their players were healthy. Now, I will give Desmond Bane this. He's been consistent for the team. He's played in 60 games so far, more than usual, especially if you look at his previous seasons, and his contribution to the team has been a major reason as to why they've looked so good. Then you got a guy like Brandon Clark, and it gets even worse when you take a look at Brandon Clark, because Brandon Clark, well, he only played in 6 games last year for the Grizzlies. He's been decimated by injuries. I think his potential's been killed because he's had a hard time staying healthy. He was supposed to be a much more important piece to this team. However, that just hasn't panned out. This year, he's only started in 18 games. He's more or less coming off the bench for the Grizzlies in a 6 or 7 man role, and he's looked good there. However, it just isn't where it's supposed to be for Brandon Clark. His ceiling was so much higher, and yet we just aren't seeing that play out. The only player who's been reliable for the Grizzlies all along has been Jaren Jackson Jr., and it shows. His game has improved mightily since being a 19-year-old rookie in the NBA 7 years ago. He's made 2 All-Star teams and has won Defensive Player of the Year. He's a lockdown down low, while Ja Morant does the work on the offensive end, and even then, Jaren Jackson Jr. has become quite a threat offensively. He's had all of these seasons where the Memphis Grizzlies have underperformed because his star teammates aren't alongside him. But who is there? Jaren Jackson. He shows up day in, day out. Since 2022, he has been a consistent and reliable piece for Taylor Jenkins to use. And this season, he's gotten out an average 22.4 points. He's got about 1.6 blocks a night, 1.3 steals, 2.1 assists, and 5.6 rebounds, while shooting nearly 50% from the field, and from the three-point line, 37%. This is by far his best year when it comes to his three-point shooting. And yet, none of that will matter, because the Grizzlies GM has gone out and decided himself that this season is not the year they're winning the championship. That is what he's told the rest of the NBA by firing Taylor Jenkins. Now, some way, somehow, this team decides to go on a miraculous run, then all flowers to the guy. But it's not going to happen because, like I said earlier, they're either going to play the Lakers or the Denver Nuggets, and none of those teams are what you want to see in the first round, especially if you're a Grizzlies team who's looking to maybe make a second round appearance. This team, this core has only made it to the playoffs 3 times, and in 2 out of their 3 runs, they were eliminated in the first round. I mean, in Taylor Jenkins' 6 years with the team, he took them from being a bottom feeder to to having a back-to-back 50-plus win seasons, and it was looking like they were going to have another 50-plus win year before they decided to fire the man. But anyway, I think I've covered everything I've wanted to about the Memphis Grizzlies, and if there's one thing I can guarantee you, it's that this team will be a first-round exit. If you were a betting man, I'd put all your money on the Grizzlies being eliminated in the first round. But like I said, that's about it. Catch y'all later. Much love. Deuces. 'Cause I want you to be mine again, baby.